Village of Wheeling regular meeting is now called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee here.
Here.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Argyris.
Here.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
Trustee Hein.
Here.
President Everscotto.
Here. Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 4th.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Brady, second by Trustee Argyris. Roll call, please.
Trustee here.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
President Everscotto.
Yes. Approval of the minutes of the special meeting of February 4th.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Trustee Argyris, second by Trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee here.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Argyris.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
President Everscotto.
Yes, Mr. Fondilis, any changes to the agenda?
No, Madam President.
There will be no changes. Citizens' concerns and comments?
Mr. Heber.
Thank you, Madam President and Board. As everyone knows, I hope they know, April 13th, we're having a blood drive. March 13th, I'm sorry.
March, right?
March 13th, we're having a blood drive. I know it was on posters previously that it was
14th, but now
14th on a Wednesday, but Wednesday is the 13th. And we hope everybody comes. Mark Jankus, he gave me a new title over the last meeting. The Vampire. What am I after? I'm after blood, everybody's blood, all the time. It's one of the most precious things there is on this earth.
That's right.
Without it, you're dead. I give you a little update on Dave Bunda, who we had the fundraiser for previously. He come out of Mayo now. He was in there about 90 some odd days. And the other day, well, he was coming home in between, but the other day they told him he was 100% cured.
isn't that wonderful?
That is marvelous. That was the only time I think I was ever before this board that I cracked up.
Very nice.
It's so very important for blood, though. You can save 3 lives, up to 3 lives. And platelets, I mean, I was trying to remember how many units of platelets he said he had a day for 4 weeks or something like that. And
It's great.
without that, you're dead. And all I can say is I thank everybody who comes to the blood drive. Last blood drive we had was one of the most successful we had in many years. We had 56 units of blood donated, and there was no deferrals, and that was a first also. So if you can get out there, please do so, because it is vital to the whole community. Then there was one other thing I was going to bring up in regards to the senior center. Excuse me, I got a horse. But I hear that we need to have a sponsor, and the sponsor's duties are the advertising, the groceries, the food, or whatever it may be, and an organization within the village to sponsor it. Now, is this so?
To sponsor what?
Sponsor a Meet the Candidate.
The answer is you cannot campaign on village premises. So you're correct that normally these things are handled by a third party, and they're usually held at either the park district, the library, the school, or a private event.
And what was previous? I mean, you must have amended the ordinances because that ordinance was not that way.
2003, we amended the ordinance, and there was always on the books a prohibition of campaigning on village property. So whether or not it was enforced, Mr. Heber, I can't speak to that.
Well, I just read in the paper the other day, Arlington Heights, the Women's League of Voters sponsored the blood drive there, and they're holding it at their village hall.
That's correct. Our code of ethics prohibits our participation in such an event. Further, there is state and federal law that prohibits them from broadcasting or using any village taxpayer equipment or monies in order to promote or hold such an event. But it is our code of ethics that prohibits any electioneering on publicly owned property.
Thank you, but I think it's very unfair. We're paying taxes. I paid taxes for 52 years. Helped pay for this building. It's still being paid for.
And that's precisely why it's not appropriate.
Property. And I am not as scared of opening up a book of worms, believe me.
But we can also change the code of ethics that we amended back in 2003.
That's correct. The change would allow for this room to be opened to a political party to host an event. However, that event could not be videotaped, nor could any staff or public monies, meaning equipment or salaries, be used to advertise, run, or reproduce that meeting. But that's correct.
So you can ask for that in official communication and maybe get a consensus and see if the board wants to even amend the code.
Sure. We could
Just to put
do
it
it
to rest.
right now
I mean,
if
it's
you'd
been
like.
talked about,
Can't we?
so. Sure.
We could do it right now.
That's fine.
So to reiterate, the code of ethics is what prohibits the village from allowing any type of forum, as previously described, from happening in this room. If we change the code of ethics, it would allow this room to be used by a political organization. It could not be a homeowners association. It could not be a business. It would have to be something akin to the Women's League of Voters, say, and all the village could do in order to allow it or to sponsor it, that's the wrong word, is literally open the door. We could not broadcast it. We could not advertise for it. We could not add it to our website, but we could allow the use of this room to be opened to the public to come and be a part of such a forum if it were to be sponsored and run by a political party.
Trustee Vogel.
John, can you explain the difference between what they're asking for now and when Sidney Mathias came here? Because some people said, well, why was he here? He was in effect campaigning. I know that was not his intent, or it was not the...
And that was the difference. There was a specific issue from a sitting official. It was far enough away from an election to be thought of as simply a public official looking for public opinion versus specifically campaigning. And certainly, as I understand it, the request is to hold a debate or a forum or a meet the candidates type thing, and that's clearly electioneering.
If I might, and also, several elections ago, the seniors held a forum in the senior center. All the candidates were there to meet the seniors and answer questions.
Well, is the question, was that proper? Because the answer would be no.
By whose standards? Is this a state law, federal law?
No, by our code. Our code says no public official or employee shall conduct any campaigning or political activity on village property.
When was that enacted?
2003.
That's probably before that.
Yeah, you can change it. You can definitely change it and do what the senior center did. But as John stated, under state law, there are 3 state laws involved. The Election Interference Prohibition Act, the Local Governmental Employees Political Rights Act, and then there's an Illinois State Officials and Employees Ethics Act that applies to local governments that prohibits political activity. And simply stated, you cannot spend village funds or use village resources or employee time to promote this kind of activity. But there are ways to navigate through this, and that would be an outside organization sponsoring the event and paying for whatever costs are incurred. But the first step this board needs to take, if they choose to, and you can, is to remove the prohibition from the code that relates to campaigning on public property.
But seeing that this is the people's house, I mean, they own all this. We don't own it. You know, I think they have the right to be able to know their candidates and see their candidates. You know, if anybody can use the building, I can understand not spending public funds for these types of things. And even the fact that they own the video system here, if somebody wanted to televise this and paid for the people to come in and televise it, what's wrong with that? As long as it isn't, tax money that's using it.
Televising is another issue. With televising in elections, there's something called equal time.
Well, it'd have to be unbiased,
And the problem with that, Trustee Brady, is you can invite everybody to show, and assuming a few don't show, they could claim that they're entitled to equal time. And now you're opening up Channel 17 to, those kinds of election claims, and they're made. They're made all the time. So, I mean, we can change the code to allow for this to be used, the senior center to be used, as I've stated in my advice to the board in the past. But if that is done, the way this is conducted has to carefully navigate the state laws on electioneering. And I think you can do it. It's a sticky wicket, but you can get through it.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, just to clarify something with the seniors thing, Jim, that was always sponsored by a third party, which was AARP.
Okay.
It was the seniors were there, they housed it at the senior center, but it was actually the sponsor of that was ARP. And
Okay.
Ms. Hine was the chairman of that at that time. So I had sat on a couple of those forums, so did you, Jude, and there's your third party.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the cable provider came out and filmed it, and they were the ones that threw it on the...
Well, I remember being at the 94th Aero Squad, and you were there too, Jude, where the chamber had done it, and had taken and recorded it, and taken that recording and had it on Channel 17, and played it 2-3 times a week. Remember that?
94
So that was
And it's up to someone of those
independence, right?
groups, if they have that big of an interest to do that. The first time, many years ago, we had something at the Chevy Chase. And that was sponsored by, I don't know if it was the Park District didn't do it, but I think it was by one of the groups that did it.
It was a chamber too.
Yeah.
Might have been, yeah.
And the chamber had one, and we had it right at the luncheon, and it was
Right.
a chamber.
It was a breakfast one,
It was a
too.
breakfast one at the 94th.
Yeah, at
remember?
94th.
That's right.
So there's all ways, but had someone come and said, okay, chamber wants to do this wants this, and none of that, except for the one homeowners, which we all received this week.
Actually, no one, though, has ever approached the
Approached the
village
village.
asking to sponsor such a forum.
Right. All right, may we continue, please?
Want to take a consensus?
No, I'll do that I don't think we want to do that in the middle of citizens' concerns and comments, unless the board would like to do a consensus.
Do it, yeah.
Just get it over.
All right,
Okay, Ms. Cavita?
we're going to have a
Oh,
consensus.
Just a minute.
We're going to have a consensus. I need a motion. I don't need a motion, just a consensus of if you want to change the ordinance.
Correct.
Trustee Lang.
At this time, I just prefer to leave the ordinance as is.
Trustee Brady.
I think it deserves some looking into.
Do you want to change it or
Yes.
look into it?
Yes,
You want to change it?
yes.
Trustee here.
Leave it as is.
What did he say? Yes?
Leave as is.
Leave it as is?
Trustee Hine.
I'd like to investigate changing the ordinance.
Trustee Vogel.
I think we have to leave it as is. We're opening a can of worms.
Leave it as is?
Trustee Juris.
It wasn't broke prior to 2003. I don't know the reasoning why we had it amended anyway. I think we did it because of the Ethics Commission, and we followed the state ethics rules. I mean, I think that was all part of it.
Yes or no?
So what is it, yes
I
or
mean,
no?
I'm okay with changing it. I mean, it wasn't broken before.
Okay.
So,
So yours is a yes?
yes,
President Evans-Scott.
Leave as is.
So it's 4-3.
of course.
4 noes, 3 yeses.
Okay, the ordinance remains as is.
Okay.
Next.
Ms. Cavita?
Good evening, trustees and Madam President and Village Manager. We have a concern about the sidewalks. Sidewalks are very dangerous on Lake Cook Road, and they're all iced, and pedestrians are walking out in the middle of Lake Cook Road, and I'm one of them. I hurt myself today on those sidewalks because they were very, very icy. Okay? Cedar Run, I did call the management, office this morning. They spoke with Lisa and also spoke with Lori. And they said they would take care of the sidewalks on Cedar Run Drive because that is Wheeling's jurisdiction on both sides. And it's not Association Street. I was walking on the Association Street on March 1st, and a woman almost hit me and my dog, almost killed us. Matter of fact, I got the dog out of the way. I have the right to walk my dog on the public sidewalk. And if it's dangerous, well, you're going to walk on the street and get killed and get hurt? And then what is the Wheeling police going to say? Well, we're sorry, Mrs. Lewandowski, your family is dead because of a car hitting them. You're both you and your dog or something? Who's going to say that? Who's going to, I'm just asking for an answer.
Which sidewalk did you say the first? I didn't hear you.
Lake Cook Road all the way down from Lexington, also to Walmart and McDonald's. And that is the Wheeling side, and it's very dangerous. And also the sidewalks in Cedar Run, on Cedar Run Drive, they're terrible, both sides. And you know what? And then a policeman, a corporal, a watch commander, he tells me, oh, the pedestrian does not have the right-of-way. I said, oh, yes, we do, because the Secretary of State says a pedestrian has the right-of-way in all the world. A truck or a car has to stop for that pedestrian or a dog or a cat that's on a leash. And I'm just saying, it's a terrible shame that, you got a neighbor that wants to, don't care about the law and they just want to run you down. And you can't walk on the sidewalks because they're all full of snow and they're slippery. And they need to be plowed and they need to be iced down. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Stavros, staff report. And the snowfall for tonight and tomorrow?
Right. Well, we're back to another round of heavy snow. Mother Nature has decided that winter was going to start late this year, and we have received all our snow last week of February and or all of February and March. And I would like to say that when homeowners come home after a long day, I understand they've got snow in their driveway, they clean their driveways, and then they see us come through, and then the snow goes back in their driveway, and they get all upset. This is not certainly something that we wish to do. This is the only way the streets can be cleared. To put it, consider that you've got if you have a two-car drive, your driveway's about 16 foot wide. Okay, the streets are 30 foot wide. Half of that street is going in front of your driveway. The other half is going across the street. That's how plows work. They are angled, and they angle the snow and plow it to the side. There's no other way of doing it. We don't want to do this way. If there was some other way of moving snow, we'd be glad to do it. But there is only one way to do it, and that's how it's done. It's been done ever since the snowplow was created, and we certainly cannot go back and dig out every driveway. I mean, we just can't. So please don't be upset with us. Snow has to go somewhere. And then you've got 15 foot of that roadway that's going to come in front of your driveway, 15 on the other side. There's, on the website, it shows how you can clean your driveway and clean out an area that would pocket that snow as the snow's coming through. If you check the website, our website, it'll show you how to clean your driveway and clean in the front of it, and to help eliminate some of that snow. But there's nowhere else to go with it. And again, this snow is going to be a heavy snow. It's going to be a long duration, and it's going to be during the day. And I'd like to say that, we have an ordinance, 2 inches or more, cars should be removed. There are some areas where the cars are not removed, and that would be Lakeside Circle Drive, and there's a couple other areas that those cars do not get moved. So, but otherwise, everything else in town does. Just be cognizant of that. You drive careful.
Thank you.
If I may, on that.
What question do you have?
Madam President, they could stop the sidewalks. They can stop the sidewalks before it turns into ice. They can do that instead of letting it go on.
We'll investigate that, all right? Thank you.
Just real quick on Tony's thing. Tone, an occasion in the last couple of weeks, I know probably all of us have gotten phone calls from residents, how come our streets haven't been done? One snowfall, I remember we had rain, then it turned to ice, then it snowed on top of that, and there seemed to be lack of activity in the neighborhoods. I know what the answer is because your staff has told me and you have told me, because of staffing and timing and how long these guys can be out there. Why don't you explain that a little bit and basically what the protocol, I think tomorrow's going to be a good example of that. You're going to have a lot of guys working during the day, but what happens at nighttime and that period of that late, that lag time between these guys going home and coming back, just to clarify a few things.
Sure. Our employees are allowed to work maximum 16 hours straight. They do get a lunch break and a couple breaks during that 16 hours. Depending on what time they start in the evening, if they are to start, say, at midnight, it would be by 3:30, they've already got their 16 in. Our goal is to keep at least 7 to 8 vehicles on the road between the hours of 3:30 and 11:30 at night. So we have some of our people that possibly don't come in at the same time as those other employees do at midnight. Those employees stay back from 3:30 to 11:30. We call it a wave. We have a wave 1 and a wave 2. The wave 1, their primary goal is to keep all main drags open through the subdivisions. That's not the side streets. So let's say if you were in Dunhurst, your main drag would be East Dennis, back out to 83. Merle, coming around back to probably East Wayne. I'm not sure exactly how that route goes. And then Lexington Drive, Cedar Run Drive around. But it's primarily just to keep the main drag open. The side streets, we certainly can't plow the side streets with 8 trucks. If we do get caught up and we have some time, we'll send a truck out to do some of the side streets. In instances when we have wet snows, which we're going to have tonight again or tomorrow, and when we had the other snows that were very wet, we pre-treat and we pre-salt to try to keep that icing down underneath the snowfall. So when you drive on it, we can peel it back off the pavement. In the instance of the one time where we had the freezing rain, it actually froze from the bottom up because the temperatures were way below freezing, and the rain got on top of the ground and it started to freeze, and then the snow came on top of it and insulated it.
Right.
And it froze from the bottom up. There was no way we could get it off, and it turned it into a washboard effect. And that happens, and there's nothing you can do about that.
But that'd be in your perfect world, the system. Unlike last week where you were faced 2 days in a row right in front of here.
Right.
Water main breaks, which took guys off the street, didn't it?
Well, that's right, because every time we have, when we did have, last week when we had the snowfall, we had 5 gentlemen out here for 13 hours on a water main break. So that takes 5 gentlemen off the plow routes. So we only have so many people, we only have so many rigs.
So patience is the key word here. Eventually you got there.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
You know, we
You gotta
don't forget anybody, and we do our best. And certainly, if somebody wants to send an email or something, and we'll respond to it. Certainly, they can call into our phone line and leave a message. Sometimes emails work a little bit better because they go directly to my phone or one of the other supervisors' phones, and we can respond back to them. You know, we don't staff the phone 24/7 unless it's a blizzard condition or something like that.
Thanks, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fondilas.
Thank you, Madam President. And just to piggyback again with a snow-related comment, Director Huizar, if I understand the process correctly, any time that there is a snow day at any of the schools in town, we cancel all programming at the senior center. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We cancel programming, but the building is still open. But we'd like to encourage people to think twice. There's no need to come out if it's snowy, particularly if they're closing schools. Then obviously the conditions are bad enough that we don't need to. You don't need to come out. So we are open though if people need to come in, but we would prefer that people stay home and stay safe.
Thank you. And my actual item was about Earth Day. During Earth Hour, an international observance organized by World Wildlife Fund, all non-essential lights in village facilities will be turned off for 1 hour in order to draw attention to environmental challenges and to encourage the conservation of resources. Landmarks and businesses are encouraged to join the village and do the same. The event will be observed worldwide on March 23rd on a rolling basis at 8:30 p.m. local time. And obviously, most village facilities are closed at 8:30 p.m. on Saturday, so please be aware to participate at your residential level, and we can do our part by letting everyone know that they should join in observing Earth Day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The consent agenda?
All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Agiris, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Agiris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Everscotto?
Yes. New business?
All listed items for discussion and possible action. 13A, resolution approving the final plat of Heritage Park subdivision, 333 West Dundee, docket number PC 13-1.
Mr. Janik?
Thank you, Madam President. This evening, staff is requesting the board approve the final plat of subdivision for Heritage Park. As you can see by the image, the subdivision includes all of the Heritage Park property as well as properties that previously were owned by the Village of Wheeling. The area to the red on the east part of the site will be retained by MWRD, and the rest of the site, basically west of the creek, will be retained by the Park District.
We have any questions, or do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Agiris, second by trustee Here. Roll call, please.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Agiris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Everscotto?
Yes.
Item 13B. There are 2 resolutions and 2 ordinances regarding the scheduling and financing of capital projects.
Mr. Fondilas.
Thank you, Madam President. The first item, which is a discussion, is really just an introduction to the remaining 4 items that staff thought would be best discussed as a group, and then individually we will ask the board for approval of the 2 resolutions and 2 ordinances. We will start this evening with a presentation of our CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, from our engineer, John Tack, who will walk through the document which provides for the current year's capital programming as well as the following 4 years' capital programming. We will follow that with a request from the board for a financial policy to discuss the use of monies gained through an increase in the utility tax, which has been discussed twice at a village board level. But specifically tonight, item number 3 will be the approval, if the board sees fit, of a resolution that will outline how the village will spend the money gained through the utility tax increase. And then we have the 2 ordinances that deal specifically with the utility tax itself. A couple of items of note with the CIP. Again, the 2013 items that Village Engineer TAC is going to discuss have already been approved in this year's fiscal budget. The remaining ones are scheduled based on priority. We do a number of professional and in-house reviews of the status of our infrastructure. Basically, we're talking about streets, water mains, and sewer lines. We do this on an annual basis. We project out as to what we see will be necessary in the coming years, and then reevaluate on an annual basis based on, as was mentioned earlier, the number of water main breaks. We were talking just a few moments ago about the water main break on Dundee Road that occurred last week. It is in fact the 3rd water main break on Dundee just this season. So we would then go back to our long-range plan, see where Dundee Road falls on that plan, and adjust accordingly based on the fact that we're spending time and money fighting water main breaks due to an aging system, and adjust accordingly. Again, we review from both a professional and in-house standpoint what is the priority for the coming 1 year, and then adjust our long-term outlook. So with that, I'll introduce Village Engineer John Tack, who will walk us through this year's plan. The board has the summary pages in front of them. They were included as part of the packet this week, and they will be displayed on the screen.
I guess just to recap a little bit of what was already said, the Capital Improvement Plan's 2013 projects were included and approved as part of the village's approved 2013 annual budget. The proposed capital improvement plan includes the summaries and project description of the 2013 funded projects, as well as 2014 through 17 funded and unfunded projects. And I believe that was emailed to you. The complete capital improvement plan was emailed to all board members. Before we start the 2013, we thought that it would be important to go over some of the 2012 highlights. Notable projects: MFT street improvement, the MFT sidewalk removal and replacement program, the MFT crack sealing program, elevated tank 1 maintenance, and well number 7 rehabilitation. The street improvement program for 2012 included improvements in Anita's and Stone Place and Edgety Drive. The work that was completed was a complete pavement reconstruction of all roadway, including curb gutter and roadway base. The initial contract amount was $666,000. The final contract has not been determined yet. We're working with the contractor, a few minor issues that need to be addressed to get final payment. We're expecting that that will come in under budget, though. For that budgeted amount, we did create almost 2,300 lineal feet of new road. The 2012 sidewalk removal and replacement program, that was in the Dunhurst subdivision, Unit 4. The objective of the program is to replace deteriorated sidewalk squares to improve drainage and eliminate potential trip hazard due to differential settling of the sidewalk squares. The original contract amount was almost $132,000. The final contract came in at about $130,000. The general maintenance crack sealing program. This is done through various locations throughout the village. It's a cooperative effort between PW staff and CD staff to determine the areas where this is needed. The objective is to clean and sometimes route the crack so that the filling and sealing can be done. This is done for both asphalt and concrete cracks. The intent here is to eliminate moisture from getting into the pavement, and then the freeze-thaw impacts the pavement drastically. So the original contract amount was $100,000. Final contract came in at almost $78,000. And for that $78,000, we were able to seal about 192,000 lineal feet of crack. Elevated tank number 1, recoating and repair program. Tank number 1 is located near the intersection of Center and Milwaukee Avenue. The work that was needed was new exterior and interior coating, along with the installation of safety features such as handrails, ladders, and a cable-type fall protection system for staff as they're doing their inspections of the tank. The contract amount here was $375,000. This contract came in a little bit less than that for a few reasons. One, the exterior coating on the outside of the tank wasn't in, the undercoating, I should say, wasn't in nearly as tough a shape as they anticipated, and that was a cost saving. And also the original contract required the work to be done in the spring, and the contractor gave us a discount if we could push that work back to end of summer, early fall, so we took advantage of that. The well number 7 rehabilitation project. Well number 7 is located at 795 Longtree Drive at the corner of Hintz Road and Longtree Drive. The rehabilitation was for the well, pump assembly, and motor. That original amount was $295,000 for that work. During the process of working on the pump assembly and the motor, it was determined that nearly 130 feet of sand needed to be removed from the bottom of the well. That, of course, was additional work that wasn't anticipated, and you can see that the final contract amount came in at $388,000. There was a rather significant change order to accomplish that work. That concludes some of the notable projects for 2012. 2013 capital improvement plan funds capital projects for infrastructure and non-infrastructure improvements, and motor fuel tax fund and the water and sewer fund, specifically water system removal and replacement fund. We'd like to talk about some of the notable projects for 2013. The sidewalk removal and replacement program. This year's budget has $167,000 appropriated. The work will be in the Dunhurst subdivision, Unit 4. My understanding, talking to the inspector, is that Unit 4 will be completed this summer, and when that is done, the remaining funds will be used in other areas of the village as determined by staff, and the sidewalk report that was prepared, I think a couple of years ago, showing areas in the village that desperately need sidewalk repair. Once again, the objective here is to replace deteriorated sidewalk squares, improve drainage, eliminate trip hazards, and so on. The Dundee Road Bicycle Pedestrian Path, large job, $1.2 million appropriated for it. The location is along Dundee Road from Des Plaines River to I-294. The project will have a 10-foot wide asphalt path constructed approximately 5,900 feet in length. The funding for this is an 80% grant from the Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program with a 20% local match. For those of you that travel along Dundee Road, probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks, you'll be noticing, assuming the weather cooperates a little bit with us, you'll be noticing silt fence will be installed in anticipation of the construction coming. The Northgate Parkway Bridge repair, there's $102,000 set aside for this work. The location is Northgate Parkway at Buffalo Creek. The problem that exists, as you can see in the photo at the bridge approaches, the pavement is deteriorated there, it needs to be repaired. And then the longitudinal joint along the center line of the bridge has a similar problem with the concrete cracking and whatnot that also needs to be repaired. Parkway tree planting program. My understanding is that this pretty consistently gets $50,000 budgeted every year. The location is throughout the village. I talked to Lori about this, and typically what they do is they spend half of their budget in the spring and half in the fall. So you'll be seeing this ongoing through most of the planting season. The Street Improvement Program, MFP funds, this year has $1.78 million. The work is proposed in the Shadow Bend subdivision and the Dunhurst subdivision Unit 3. This is a village-wide street improvement program that provides the resurfacing, and when necessary, the reconstruction of existing pavement. We have a plan. I believe it's the second to the last page in your packet that lists the streets that are to be improved. And let me back up a little bit. We have a tentative plan that lists the streets that are to be improved from 2013 through 17. That plan can be modified based on a need. And as of right now, we are working with the consultant on Shadow Bend and Dunhurst, determining where we will be resurfacing and doing complete reconstruction. The water main replacement program this year has $1.55 million budgeted. The work is intended for the Hollywood Ridge subdivision Unit 2, Phase 2, and along Edgewood. With the $1.55 million, we anticipate putting in about 370 feet of new water main. This replacement will be bid this year for the first time in the village of Wheeling, is my understanding, with a PVC pipe alternate, along with the typical ductile iron that the village has done in the past. Village staff has talked to some of the surrounding communities that have been using the PVC for some time now and feel that it's a very good product. Elevated tank recoating and repair program for tower number 3, located at 1375 Old McHenry Road. We have $488,000 budgeted for this. The work that is being proposed is interior-exterior recoating. This type of work, as with the tower that was done last year, is somewhat of a specialty type work. And we have a very good consultant that wrote the bid docs and will also be doing the inspection. So whatever contractor winds up getting the work, we know that we're very comfortable that the inspection service will make sure that the work gets done correctly. The water meter improvement program, $3.3 million. This is an entire village project. The intent is to upgrade the village's water meters as well as the remote reading system. In 2012, there was a trial period for installations for residential, commercial, and industrial, just to make sure that everything would run smooth before they started the full-blown process of installing all the meters. The trial was very successful, and the meter program, as of March, will be in full swing. We recently talked to the contractor that's doing the installations, and he anticipates that 90 to 95% of the meters will be installed by the end of October. That ends the 2013 discussion. We want to look just a little bit into the future. The 2014-15 Street Improvement Program, MFT, and the 2015 Water Main Replacement Program. Always big money being spent here. As you can see, like I mentioned earlier, the second to the last page in your packet does list the streets for 14 and 15 that are intended to be repaired with $1 million budget as of today. The 2015 Water Main Replacement Program, there's $1.5 million budgeted. Brookshire Drive, Mockingbird Lane, Coral Lane, and Holly Court, as of today, are the intended streets that will have water main replacement. At At this time, staff requests the village board approval of the capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2013 through 17 as presented. And if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them right now.
Madam President.
Trustee here.
Very good job, John. One question I do have, and I know it's for the people in TV land. They're all saying, well, my street needs to be repaired. What criteria was used to determine what streets should be fixed first versus others? Because I know in an old section of town, there are some streets that are deteriorated, but I know that's probably the same on the other side of town as well. So people will be asking that question. What's the criteria?
Well, and I know you know that I'm somewhat new, but my understanding is that there was a report done by a consultant that went through the entire village and evaluated all the streets. And there was a scoring system set aside or established for that by that consultant for the quality of the street. And that's, as of today, that's what we're basing our decision on.
Okay, and that, through time, though, as you guys go out and look at the streets, that can change as well. I just want the people watching to know that.
Absolutely. There's, if we go out there and we see, because it is a 5-year plan, and certainly the quality of that street can change over time. That's what it's all about. So we will be reevaluating that on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Trustee Adjuris and then Trustee Vogel.
Just to piggyback on what Bob had mentioned, when that study was done, how long ago was that?
When
the study you're referring to?
Study?
It was last fiscal year, I believe it was 2012.
It was 2012?
It was completed in, I believe, late 11, 12.
Well, looking at your 5-year plan here towards the end there of the streets that you plan on doing, this is where I think I kind of differ with it. You've done major tearing up of neighborhoods with the water main and the sewer thing that you did, and I'll pick the Hollywood Ridge area, the Beverleys, the Valley Streams, and that was done 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and here we're looking at 2017. From now till then, there is no street replacement or trying to fix those streets at all. I mean, when we tear up a street to put a water main in, what, they got to wait 10 years to get that street back to normal again or somewhat nice?
Actually, if I can address that just for a second, you guys please feel free to add to my answer. Certainly, we always attempt to cycle water main first, any water or sewer work that needs to be done, and follow it as close to immediately after with any street replacement work. One of the problems that we've seen, which we're going to discuss a little bit later with the utility tax, is that we've had to take monies out of CIP in order to help balance our general fund budget. When that happens, we've reduced the number of streets that we would normally pave, which then forces us to abandon what we would like to do, which is follow up immediately any water or sewer main work with street work and focus more on, okay, what's the immediate need as far as streets go? If other streets are in worse condition than a patched, as you had said in Valley Stream, if those roads are falling apart more than the patchwork that is on a street that just had a water or sewer infrastructure project, we prioritize that street. Part of the increase in utility tax is to allocate those monies directly into the CIP projects and help get that program back and stable.
But remember, you're getting MFT funds too. It's not just the utility tax that are funding these streets.
That's correct. Okay. And water and sewer is separate as well.
But then again, when we go back to our neighbors there and they say, you tore up my street 10 years ago and I'm not even in the next 5-year plan here, I mean, that creates a real problem. You took islands on Beverly there and literally disasterized them with a patch job. I mean, you really do. You took the aesthetics of those neighborhoods and they look like crap. And here I'm looking at 2017, and there's nothing there.
We completely understand, and remember that MFT money was being diverted to pay for salaries because that's what we had to do in order to keep employees in the department. So while this document has, a number of programs set for 2014 through 17, all of that gets reevaluated if the board approves the utility tax changes, and we can then go back and recreate all of our projections for the coming years. But
so
you are absolutely
before
correct.
us is subject to change.
Absolutely.
All of it is.
Okay. That's all I have on that particular item for now.
Thank
So,
you.
go ahead.
Trustee Vogel.
When you look at the, maybe referencing, and it was not on the screen, but page 5 of the report we got, the capital projects fund by year, you break it out between the subtotal infrastructure improvement costs and then the total salary, or the engineering salaries and benefits of $160,370. Is it realistic to assume that that $160,370 for 2013 is going to be the same in 2017? Shouldn't there be something built in for, I mean, are we freezing everybody's?
Well, I think you're right. The projections should increase. I'm not.
All of
on
the tables
page
that I
you're
saw
on.
showed that the same throughout the 5-year. For whatever table it was, there was no. And regardless how many projects were ongoing, also the dollar amount remained the same. So if you look at like 2013, you've got 9 projects going on. If you look at 2016, you got 3 going on.
Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the reason those numbers are stagnant is because we are working with a fixed budget, which meant as far as, say, salaries go, we were allocating X percent of the budget to salaries. Whatever wasn't paid for through the MFT funds was then made up in the general fund. That's why they remain stagnant. And as far as the projects go, again, with a fixed budget, it depends on how long the street is in order to calculate how much the project is going to cost, which is why you see fluctuation in the amount of streets covered, but not fluctuation in the budget itself.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. How about outside services? Is there any consulting that has to be added to any of this? Outside engineering, or again?
Those are covered in the general fund budget. This is, all of these funds are specific budget amounts, so we can only do what we can do to play with, say, $1 million or $1.5 million. But there is, specific to your question, there is some outside consultant work that is paid for through other funds in the general fund.
All right, where's that reflected?
On here, it wouldn't be. It's in the budget, though. It's in the budget that was approved for 2013.
Okay.
But why would that be used through other funds if it's pertaining to capital improvement? Why wouldn't the dollars that are generated with capital improvements every year, and if we have to go to outside services or pay for engineering or staffing in that, why wouldn't that be allocated out of the funds that are collected out of here?
Because this document is meant to show how the monies that are being collected specifically for CIP projects are being spent.
Well, the
If
cost
we were
of
to
doing those
mix-
projects, the cost of doing those projects is sometimes going to outside consultants.
That's correct.
Like with the street program. Why wouldn't that fee for that, instead of take the burden out of the general fund and put it where it belongs for a fund that's paying for infrastructure improvement?
And that makes sense, except if that expense gets transferred into the CIP, that's less actual projects that you're seeing happen in the neighborhoods.
But then again, on the flip side, you can make the argument it creates a tax burden on the general fund.
These documents absolutely are hand in hand. The reason that this is separated, though, from the general budget is to show exactly where those taxes are being spent. The taxes that are collected that were allocated to CIP projects are being spent, and that's why this document is separate. Besides the fact that it's a long-term planning document, that's why this is separate from the general fund.
Have any other questions, or do it? Trustee Brady.
Thank you. We've talked about new sidewalks for quite a while, and matter of fact, I hope we're still working on getting a fund put together that when somebody makes a contribution instead of installing the sidewalks, we'll have the money to get a program rolling. And then in light of the fact that last year we had an entire year spent on talking about walking and bike paths. So sidewalks are an important thing, but I don't see much of a plan here for new sidewalks. What is going to be our criteria for installing new sidewalks? Are we waiting till somebody asks for them?
No, the topic of sidewalks will be coming to the board as a large program, covering both what does the board want to see, meaning do we want to see, what's our standard? In a residential neighborhood, do we want to see sidewalks on one side of the street or both? In a commercial area, do we want to see sidewalks on one side or both? So that, in addition to how do we deal with a sidewalk fund, meaning individual private contributions to a fund? How do we want to use that? That is going to be dealt with in one large project discussion with the board.
But, so for the next 5 years, nothing is going to happen as far as new sidewalks, other than, looks like probably that's Wolf Road, that 2000.
Other than what's in here, that's correct.
Yes. That's a long time to wait. You know, we know more and more people are walking, and we know the importance of sidewalks. Whether it be one side or both sides, it'd probably be better off being on both sides, but that's something we can discuss later. I think we got to get going on that a little bit sooner than the schedule we're on, because it's an important issue. Secondly, street lighting replacement program. We get $150,000 average every year for the next 5 years on replacing street lights. We just, not that long ago, put all new standards and heads in around the entire community, and then we replaced the heads on our grant a year or two ago. What are we spending all that money on?
Not the entire community, only certain neighborhood sections of town were replaced. And Tony or Mark can speak more specifically to the number of lights that we have in town and the percentage that was covered by that grant.
Under the grant, we replaced 250 heads out of, I don't know exactly how many streetlights we have in town, but it was just a small portion, is what the grant covered. The streetlight replacement program, what that does is we have old poles yet in areas that are concrete poles that are no longer being manufactured. A lot of them are in the industrial areas. When we have knockdowns, we don't have any way of replacing them. We're trying to standardize the poles. Some of them are actually still on wood poles yet in some of the areas. The replacement program was scheduled this year for, at the beginning of the year, over in the industrial area, and we reevaluated that, and we decided it would be better to put it over in the residential area of Anthony Drive, over in that area, and replace those lights first, rather than doing the ones in the industrial area. And that also includes, the uniduct and underground conduit, because right now those wires, they have a lot of breaks in them. They're old. A lot of them are not in conduit. Well, most of them are not in conduit, the old ones. So therefore, that when you do a streetlight program, it's all new conduit, uniduct, and it's the poles being replaced that are not any longer functional that we can replace. And as we go along, we standardize those poles. So we have them in stock when they get, and believe me, we get knockdowns, I don't know, a couple a month.
Good answer. Don't get too comfortable. I got one more for you, Tony. On page 7, you're talking about, there's something in here about a new emergency backup well, $1.4 million. Is that a brand new well?
Right. Currently, this year, we have in for design for that well, and then that well, we're looking to put it up at the North Station. Currently, we cannot meet our peak demands with the 2 standby wells. We rehabbed the 2 wells we had year before and last year, which brought us back up about probably 400 gallons a minute between the 2 of them. On a peak day, where we fall short of almost, I believe it was 1 million gallons on our peak performance. So in order to, if we lose our only straw, say Evanston, and then 2 years ago when we had a lot of icing out there, we did lose them for a while. We wouldn't have enough pumpage to supply the town for complete fire protection. We'd have to cut back on some of our uses. And so we're proposing to put this 3rd well in up on the north end. When we do the northwest pressure zone, that'll also, it's going to tie into the North Station, so it'll also help push water out there in an emergency. Buffalo Grove just got done putting a new well in last year, just finishing up now on their new well, because we're all in the same system. And for us to say, well, let's cross-connect or let's interconnect with somebody else, the only ones we can interconnect with are the same ones that are on the same straw we are. So therefore, if we lose that straw, being interconnected doesn't help me with Arlington Heights being cross-connected or Buffalo Grove, because they're all sucking the same water.
Thank you. That's it.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
On which?
Wait, there is no motion on that.
The second
Could we talk about this
Yes,
other
the-
stuff, or you want to do it?
Well, we're on
one by
the
one?
resolution. We need to pass a resolution approving the financial policy.
Okay, we didn't read that one yet.
We can, Madam President, if you're okay, we can read them all and discuss them and then approve them all at the end, or if you'd
One
like,
at a time.
whatever you
Number
prefer.
2.
Want to do one at a time?
Sure.
Number 2.
One at a time.
Okay.
So-
B2, resolution adopting the Community Development Department Capital Improvement Plan for the 5-year period of fiscal year 2013 through 2017.
Question, if I may. Okay. This would be the time to talk about if you wanted to add something or take something out or see something in the future CIP, is that correct? Based on this resolution? Well, if you guys recall, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we brought up during the budget time that put dollars into the CIP to do a flood mitigation program village-wide, which today, this is why we're sitting in this building, okay? It helped the entire community. It hurt some by putting some into a flood zone, but it took a lot of people out. I like to see something in here because I think we're going to be facing the future, almost like a SURF kind of thing in the CIP, to help us fund grants. If we're fortunate enough to get some federal grants to help some of the associations out there, whether it be ponding, whether it be flood issues, flood mitigation for future, that we can need to match 20% instead of going into the general fund or into the reserves, I think this would be a good idea to start that program. Whether it be $50,000, $100,000 a year over a period of time, it's going to add up to some dollars that would help us for future last-minute disaster projects. You know, there could be places out there that can get a grant, and maybe they're not getting a grant because there's no local funding available to share. I think we need to look at that. I think there should be a program out there that we should start putting dollars aside for a program like that, especially flood mitigation. It's such a huge thing in this community. And again, we're consistently getting involved with it. And I think that's going to be the future where we're going to get a lot more involved. So that's an opinion that I have that I think would be a smart thing to do, to have a line item in there where we allocate 1-2% of the CIP from the user tax or something like that to do that. I think it's something smart that we need to do for the future. And you know what? If some of these associations or village-owned areas that have retentions and stuff like that, and there's a program out there that we can get some monies to help drench it or help fix it or alleviate the problem or get rid of some of the problems that are out there throughout the community, and there's a local share, just like the airport, you know, we get all this federal FAA money, but guess what? If we don't have the local share, we're not getting the money. And you want to know something? Part of the application has to state that you have the local share if you were awarded that grant. So I think we need to start being smart for the future boards, future generations down the road, that we put dollars aside for that. And I think that'd be a smart thing to do. I'm seeing some other communities starting to get proactive with that, and I think we need to start as well. Secondly, just to recap a little bit, Michael, you're the money man. I'm going to go to you on this. Right now, the 2013 capital improvement budget consists of about, what, $11 million, $11.5 million altogether here? Where's the money come from? Maybe help us break it down so we see how we pay for it, okay?
Sure. There's several funds that make up the CIP. We've been talking a lot about the Capital Projects Fund. That's one of the primary funds. There's the Water and Sewer Fund that pays for any maintenance or improvement projects to the water and sewer system. There's the Motor Fuel Tax Fund that's used primarily for street projects. And then you have the TIF funds as well that are that's money that's dedicated for economic development purposes.
For infrastructure in those TIF districts.
Right.
Okay. I'm just making a point here. There's a lot of perception out there, you know, all these monies, all these different dollars come in here, and what are we doing? We have been so aggressive with infrastructure improvements, maybe not as much as we would like to in the last couple of years because of the recession and our restraints with our general fund budget. But I think this is a good example that if you drive around, look around, and see what's going on in this community, a lot of dollars that are generated in these revenue source funds are being put back into the community. And you know what? Whether it be MFT or there's water and sewer, I mean, they're going to good use. So I just wanted to make that clear, but I don't know if you want to do a consensus, or maybe we can talk about it at a later date, have a workshop regarding the flood thing that I'm talking about, but I think we really seriously need to start doing that.
Well, I think it's something also when we do the budget hearings, we start to talk about it, but we can have a special workshop just for CIP.
And that's what we're doing now.
We've had that before, so now we can make an addition to it. So it's up to Mr. Fondilas
If the board would like to see something, staff can start investigating. I mean, there are a number of points that need to be considered and drafted in order to create such a program. But from what I understand of what you're saying, we could run something much like our facade grant improvement. But I know you're talking about a share issue. We could add that aspect to it. We could look into it certainly and come back to the board with some options.
We could always amend this thing and add it to it.
For future years, yes, which means I would suggest that we discuss it, figure it out, get it in place, and add it to the CIP for 2014 and beyond. Otherwise, if we added it to this year, we'd be taking money away from projects that are already on the books. But that doesn't mean that we can't get on it during 2013 in order to establish it for future years.
And while you're figuring that out, not every one of these projects is going to get done in this year. It's been a history historically. I've seen CIP projects for the last 12 years. There's a lot of things that were budgeted in 2002, 2003 that didn't get done until 2007, 2008, or not even got done at all. But those dollars were allocated for that fund. So there might be some wiggle room, maybe even try to start something this year. I like to try to start something because the longer we prolong and procrastinate, the worse it gets. And I think we miss opportunities. I think we really miss opportunities that really doesn't help some of the associations or the residents or ourselves. It's costing us too.
We can put something together for the board to consider, and the answer to your question is yes, it can always be amended.
Okay, thank you.
So you're looking for it primarily to be able to help associations? By your statement?
Or stuff that we maintain ourselves. Let's face it, we have retention ponds in this community that we're maintaining ourselves.
Right.
Look at the fire department right there at Hinson William Road. I mean, all that kind of stuff, it's our responsibilities for. So it's creating a problem, and I think we need to really seriously address it. That's all
Do
I
we have anything else? Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Jerry, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heine?
Yes.
President Eriscotto?
Yes.
Item 13B3, resolution approving a financial policy for the Capital Projects Fund.
So, question?
Trustee Jerry.
Thank you. Mr. Ferrella,
Yes.
is there something in this that we can state that's written in stone that we cannot touch the CIP monies anymore? For the last 2 years, we've taken hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars out of that to try to balance our general fund budget. I like to see verbiage in here that states in writing, just like your Code of Ethics amendment that we did in 2003, that states you cannot touch the dollars in here. And better yet, I'll piggyback on another fund, the SURF fund, to balance future general fund budgets.
The problem with that request is you're looking to bind future boards relative to the use of the funds, and future boards, in the event they need those funds, really should be in a position to address that need, just like you have been in the past. So that's a sort of a dangerous thing to do, and as far as the law goes, binding future boards is something that you really can't do in a way that's untouchable.
Okay, but the policy was made when Mr. Monashine started here.
Yeah.
And he came up with this wonderful idea of user tax. I'll give you credit, Michael. And at that time, across the street there, it was for the general fund. And at that time, we said, no. If we're going to create a new taxation here in this community, we're going to give back to the community. And with that, we got the street light program. And with that, we got the uniform fence program that paid for it out of the user tax. We set policy back then where those dollars were going to go. I just like to see something that reminds everybody in the future that those dollars are allocated for improvements and infrastructure of this community-wide. Because it's been too damn easy the last 2 years to take $1 million, $500,000, $700,000, $800,000, Berkshire, all these streets, Valley Stream are put on the back burners because we've taken dollars that we haven't had to do that. Same thing with the SURF fund. The SURF fund, it's too easy to dip into $5-6 million we have in another checkbook to try to balance a budget. There's other ways to balance budgets. You cut back, you do what you have to do. But I think right now we're playing with fire here with too easy access to these other funds, and it's hurting the community.
Well, would you like the policy is written by finance does state that. Is it not strong enough, or you want some stronger wording regarding the intent of this board?
Well, the intent is to increase to the maxation of the user tax.
Right.
based on a philosophy that we're going to use these dollars for infrastructure improvements and capital improvements throughout the community. It's an extra $1 million a year. Sure. Well, that's very easy to handle the increase of salaries and everything else that's put into the general fund. I like to see something in there in writing that states, you know what, we're doing this, but our intent, I don't know, maybe it's an intent, maybe it's goodwill that we're putting something in writing, that the intent for this thing is to specifically use it for capital improvements, not to balance our general fund budget, not to pay salaries out of our general fund. We've been doing it too long, and you know what, and it needs to stop. And we need to deal with deficit spending or whatever the case may be, and hopefully when the track that we're going with economic development and everything else, that'll help by itself. But then again, we also talked at budget time, instead taking all the burden of the bond issue of $40 million for all the infrastructure improvements, all the facilities that we build in this community, to take that servicing debt away, or part of it away from the general fund. And I like staff's recommendation where 25% of the increase would go towards the servicing debt, which in return will help the general fund, the burden of the taxpayers of the general fund that are responsible for that. I mean, it's a program, it's policy, and we've talked about this, and you guys have done a great job with the recommendations, and I agree with it. I really do. But I'd just like to see something with a little teeth that, hey, this was talked about, this was the policy in 2013, this is why we did it, but we want to try to live by these rules on here. Sure, 10 years from now, somebody can change it again, but right now, I think it's good.
Trustee Vogel?
I think the intent of the policy is pretty clear that that's what the money's meant for. But if it came down to an issue of resurfacing a street or giving up some security and safety, I want that ability to be able to do that. I don't want to tie our hands that we have to, and everybody's going to panic on us, lay off firemen and police so that we can go fix some sidewalks. So I don't want to give that up. And I realize maybe it's the board up here that's got to take a stronger approach to it in the future when that suggestion comes up. And maybe we've got to take the lead to dig deeper and find whatever cuts we can without jeopardizing those services and without taking the money from there. But to tie our hands, I think, is wrong.
So do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee here.
Oh, Trustee Lang.
Lang, I'll second it then.
Oh, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
It's okay, I haven't been saying much tonight.
I know, you've been very quiet.
I know.
Question? You heard from two trustees. Is there any other input? Do you want to see, to leave everything status
Well,
quo?
I asked for the input, there was no input, I asked for a
Well, I didn't
motion.
hear you say that, I'm sorry. So there is no input from anybody else, okay.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
I gotta go now.
Pardon?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Eversotto?
Yes.
Item 13B4, ordinance amending Chapter 4.11 municipal gas use tax of the Wheeling Municipal Code.
Mr. Monishane.
Thank you. As directed by the board at a previous meeting, we prepared two ordinances for approval tonight, one that would increase the gas use tax and the other that would increase the electric use tax to rates that would be comparable to communities in the area. With respect to the gas use tax, the increase for the average resident would cost them another $2.22 a month, and with respect to the electric use tax, it would be 96 cents a month. If there's any questions about the proposed tax increases, I'll try to answer them.
And your,
Do we have any questions? Trustee Argyris.
your approximate increase would generate how much in new revenue every year?
Right now, the Capital Projects Fund receives about $1.7 million in use tax each year. This would generate another $1 million that would be primarily used for street projects and the other projects that have historically been included in the Capital Projects Fund.
very easily can be taken out to pay for other stuff.
Well, with the approval of the policy just now, I think that there is guidance for staff and the board going forward that 75% of those proceeds are going to be used for current projects, and that no more than 25% will be used for debt service. And in the past, we didn't really have a policy, so it fluctuated from year to year. Now we have some guidance. When we sit down to prepare the 2014 budget, we will do that keeping in mind that no more than about $650,000 or so can be used for debt service purposes.
Okay.
If I may, I'd like to take the opportunity to explain something. As Director Monchain said, or just explained, we have, in addition to the policy that was just passed, a SURF policy that outlines the same kind of bifurcation of money. Well, that's why you see when I provide you a draft budget that, say, for SURF monies, the full contribution is coming from every department, and we talk about reducing that contribution at a board level. The reason you see that year after year is because we have a standing policy that says this is what we do. It's the board's decision, not mine or staff's, to then reallocate those monies. So as Director Monchain said, we will now treat the new monies for CIP the same way. The board would have to decide to purposefully go against the policy that was just created. So I just want to take the opportunity to talk about SURF because I know every year it comes up. Well, why do you keep putting in 100% contribution when it is nearly impossible to make that contribution? And I thought this was a good opportunity to talk about how staff treats these policies.
Trustee Brady.
Thank you. I have a little trouble with utility taxes. You know, it wasn't that many months ago we struggled with our tax rate. Try to get it down, try to balance the budget. 6 weeks we argued, fought, and cut, and did what we had to do. And now here we're, oh, okay, let's just double it, whatever we're going to do. It's pennies. Of course, some of the real estate tax increases were pennies too. But the thing of it is, do anybody ever look at their utility bills? Everybody's got their fingers in there. There's funds going here, there, you don't even know what they are. Everybody's going into the utility bills. And here we are doing no different. Stuff like this, if this were on the real estate tax, people could deduct it. We're doing this, we're doing other things. We tax everything we can, including gasoline and everything else. And where's that money go? You know, it's gone. We can't, we pay it like everybody else, and there's no recuperation. I think that if we just got down to the brass tacks of real estate tax pays for the village, everything the village needs, and it's done. And never mind all this hidden taxes. I really have a problem with this. I really do. And I'm all against increasing these taxes any more than they are right now.
Can I say something to that?
Yes.
If you took the formula, Mr. Montague, say 750, or how much money would go into the general fund out of the increase? How much you figure?
None of this will go to the general fund.
The increased portion would, for the service.
There'll be another $1 million, which means that there'll be $2.7 million approximately coming into the fund every year. And the policy states that no more than about $650 or $675 can be used for debt service.
Okay.
So that would leave about $2.1 million a year for capital projects.
So if you eliminate the $650,000 going into the general fund from the capital improvements fund, from the user tax, I should say, let me clarify that, that would increase your real estate taxes, to be honest with you, Mr. Brady, probably 6.5% tax levy. For every $100,000, there's 1% tax levy, on top of everything else. Right?
Right.
Not everybody pays a real estate tax bill in this community.
Right.
Yes, they do, directly. If they're renters, the owners pay it. You know, I don't understand what's the difference. The money is the money. Whether it's real estate tax or a phone tax or gas tax or electric tax, it's still a tax. That's all I have.
I understand.
Trustee Lang and then trustee Hein.
If we didn't realize such a huge savings on our electric bill due to this aggregation, I don't think I'd be for it. But the savings has, I don't know about anyone else, but I realize a huge savings. And if that wasn't there, I don't know if I'd be in support of this, but it is there, and this, it clearly makes a difference. So I'd be in support of it.
Thank you. Trustee Hein.
What is going to be the average increase for residents when this tax goes on the electric bill?
The average increase on the gas tax will be about $2.22 a month, and on the electric tax, about 96 cents a month. So $3.18 total.
Comes about $39 a year.
Madam President,
Divided. Trustee here.
I'd like to piggyback on Trustee Lang's. You know, we had that cost savings. How long is that cost savings going to be around? That's the question. And if we go with this today, future boards down the road, can we put something here in the ordinance that says if our electric rates go back up to where they were, that we would, this additional tax would be repealed at that time? Because I have a feeling a few years from now, our electric rates are going to go back up, but then we're still going to be paying this, which is what would be tacked onto it. So I don't know what the answer.
I think the decision to repeal would be with the board at the time that the rates go up. That is what they'd be elected to do and consider.
Because it's like the state adding the 5%, where it's only short term, but it's going to be here forever. Okay, thanks.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Lang.
I'm here.
Second by trustee Vogel.
Was it trustee Lang or trustee here?
Was trustee
That's Lang.
Okay.
Promise.
Trustee Lang and then trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
No.
Trustee Argyris?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
No.
President Avascado?
Yes.
4-3. Item 13B5, ordinance chapter 4.15 of the municipal code establishing a municipal electric use tax.
So moved.
Motion made by trustee Adjuris.
Second.
Second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
No.
Trustee Argyris?
No.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
No.
President Avascado?
Yes.
Item 13C, resolution waiving competitive bidding and approving a proposal for maintenance of municipal fountains located at the northeast and northwest corners of Milwaukee Avenue and Dundee Road for 2013.
Mr. Stavros.
I can explain quickly. This is an agreement with Fountain Tech. They have been our provider for the last several years. It is a bit of a sole source situation, and they have held their prices from the 2012 contract.
We did this in 2007, and they've held their price since 2007. And the original contract had four-year renewal. And but since then, we've been renewing it every year. They've given us a letter that they've held their price. There's only, it's a very limited amount of organizations that do this work. Well, last time we did bid this out, there was only one other bidder, and they couldn't meet the specifications. So actually, Fountain Tech was the only.
And it's a wheeling business.
And they're a wheeling business.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any questions? Motion made by trustee Adjuris, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Pardon?
said yes.
President Abiscato.
Yes. Official communications, trustee Adjuris.
Make a comment, I think we need some help here. Mr. Madigan and Mr. Culligan are looking to take our sales tax money away, it looks like, diversion of local sales tax revenue pending in the House. And this bill represents a dangerous and continuing precedent where the state would use local government revenues as a means to fund other fiscal shortfalls. This trend beginning with the loss of photo processing fees in 2002 and continues on. This is scary. If these guys can dip into our sales tax, and they're looking at allocating about $6.6 million statewide to help fund their medical stuff that they're looking to do, I mean, what do we need to do to get people involved? Because this is really scary.
The answer is to have individuals reach out to their state representatives. The village has registered our opposition to the bill, as has the Northwest Municipal Conference. But at an individual level, it always helps to call your local state representatives and let them know that you oppose this bill.
And that's the problem, because the sales tax revenue to the Illinois State Medical Disciplinary Fund to cover a fiscal shortfall created by a previous sweep of that fund. So now we're going to dip into our sales tax dollars that we work hard to. Could we post something online of the representatives in our community?
They are online. They are
a notation of this. You need to call, or we need help here. I mean, we need to get a campaign because it starts with sales tax, and all of a sudden they try to do the income tax thing already. And what else is left? MFT funds and everything else they weren't going to dip into? Then we might as well just close the doors here. Seriously, it's getting down to that. But this, I'm proud of the Northwest Municipal Conference. They're taking a good, positive stand on this thing, but we need to really get individuals, the constituents out there and start screaming about this. Because you will be looking at 15, 20% tax levies if they take other revenue sources away from us. That's all I have. Thank you.
Madam President.
Trustee Brady.
Just something for Public Works to look at. Not our problem, but it's a state problem. It was about a year or two ago that they did the McHenry extension there. I repaved that from Dundee to 83. You know, you go over that bridge, and that bump is getting worse. And all that's going to do is just knock the heck out of that bridge. Could you call somebody at the state and have them come out and look at that?
Trustee Brady, we've contacted the state on almost a weekly basis. We contacted them immediately after the project was completed, told them it was not the way it was prior to the project beginning, and we were told it was. Well, I go over it a lot more than you do, and trust me, it's tough on the front end. And I'll give them a call again. They've come out, they throw a couple shovels of coal patch in, but that bridge is actually 3 box culverts with a slab over the top of them. And I don't know what happened, if the box culverts, if it settled, but when they did the paving job, and they didn't pave up to it, the bridge, because they said it had to float, that's where the problem started. And we've had their engineers out, and they go, it's right. Well, they're not the ones driving over it every day, but it's getting bad.
That vibration is going to destroy that in a matter of no time. Secondly, congratulations to Grandpa, trustee here, and 2 strapping young boys into the family. Here, here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Grandpa.
Grandpa. I know I look too young. Man, I'm all red in the face. I know I am. Turn the color off. Thank you.
Trustee Vogel.
Oops. Also, congratulations, Robert, to your lovely wife, Kathy.
Thank you.
And happy birthday this week to past President Sheila Schultz. I believe March 6th, 7th, okay? That's both, the church has even got it wrong. And Dina Argyris also this week.
Yeah, March 6th.
Wow.
Thanks.
Happy birthday.
We have anything else?
Bob's older.
Pardon me?
Nothing. Bob's older.
We have no bills to approve. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
Pending probable and imminent litigation, the setting of a price for sale or lease of property owned by the village, and the appointment employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or employees of the Village of Wheeling. We have a motion by trustee here,
Second.
second by
Brady.
trustee Brady. Roll call, please.
Trustee here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Argyris?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Abiscato?
Yes, the board will go into executive session at 8:15.
Mark, Tony, Lana, Tim, and John.